Hello and welcome to Take the Lead Presents Virtual Happy Hour. We're glad you're here. I'm Gloria Felt, co-founder and president of Take the Lead. We host virtual happy hours on the second Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We interview women who take the lead in their own lives and careers. So you have 1 hour once a month to boost your career. It's a quick, easy, and fun way to learn what other smart, interesting role model women are up to too. Please tweet your questions to @TakeLeadWomen or type them into the chat box. We want to hear from you and we'll get those questions answered. Take the Lead's mission is nothing less than leadership gender parity by 2025. Visit www.taketheleadwomen.com to find training programs for yourself and your organization. You can also find mentoring, coaching, role model events, and great content to help you on your journey. That's www.taketheleadwomen.com. Now, make yourself comfortable. Grab a cocktail, a mocktail, tea, coffee, glass of water, whatever you like, and sit back for an inspiring virtual happy hour. Hi there. I want to wish you a happy and healthy welcome to Take the Lead's virtual happy hour. I'm Gloria Felt. I'm co-founder and president of Take the Lead, joined by my co-host, Reshma Gopaldas, vice president of video for She Media. Hey, Reshma.
Hey.
So, got a question for you before we go to our absolutely incredible, fabulous guests today, great experts on mental health. What do you do to keep yourself mentally healthy?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm actually thinking about that a lot today because I would say today was not my most mentally healthy day. I almost texted you to be like, I don't know if I can make this tonight. I have so much work. Honestly, I think it's like stopping in your day and just saying like, tonight I'm going to go to the gym. Tonight I'm going to do this for myself. And I think we're so busy at our jobs that you forget to do that. And I had like an injury 2 months ago, so I stopped going to the gym regularly. And I've noticed that it's like building up, and I was like, oh, I feel a little, I hate to use words like this, but like you feel a little unhinged, like I'm fine at work, everything's good, but internally.
Boy, I get that so much. I get so cranky and mean when I don't get to exercise. For me, I guess there are two things really. One of them is a sense of purpose, because the thing is, we both work really hard and long hours, and I know that because we've known each other a long time and we know each other's work habits. But for me, it's really important to keep my mental focus on why am I doing this? The purpose for which I'm working, and I'm so passionate about what I'm doing for women in leadership. But honestly, I have to exercise every day or I really do get very, very cranky and I'm not nice to be around. So I will give up sleep. I will give up anything in order to be able to exercise every day.
The other thing I make myself do is sleep. I don't think people prioritize that enough. And sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just not responding to these emails. I need to sleep. I'm human.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're very lucky to have these minor issues that we have to deal with. And certainly for many people, there are much bigger issues. And we're really, really lucky to be able to have on this virtual happy hour two amazing dynamic guests, Inger Burnett Ziegler and Megan Della Camina. I've been practicing it and then I loved it. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. We will be delving into a very necessary conversation about finding the resources to manage stress and maintain our mental health. And I know that these incredible experts are going to be able to talk to us about how to recognize signs of blockage and anxiety and really understand the link between our mental health, mental wellness, and work and personal life, and how we can take steps to maintain that. So I think we should just jump right on into it.
Yeah.
I do want to remind people to be sure and stay to the end because we have some great resources that they'll be able to download at the end. One is your best self resource guide from Take the Lead, which is a really great curated number of blog posts and other resources that we have put together for people, especially for this virtual happy hour. And then Megan has a fantastic 10-part video series for her new book, which I hope she'll tell us all about, which is called Simple, Soulful, Sacred. Great name for a great title for a book. So Megan, I hope you'll tell us all about that, and people will be able to download that. We'll be sure and put the links into the chat so that everybody can find them. So so I guess just before we really do jump in, I'm noticing that we're seeing two different simultaneous narratives emerging about mental health. And one of them is stigmas reduced or you know, like as they get reduced a bit as high profile women or high profile anybody discuss their mental health struggles. So I think there's more forthright discussion about it. But at the same time, we're seeing mental health blamed for a litany of issues, including violence. And given what's been going on in the US recently, I think those are really important things to talk about. So Reshma, why don't you take it away and make an intro?
All right, guys. So we have two amazing guests, and the first one is Dr. Inger Burnett Ziegler. Wave to us. There you go.
Thank you so much for having me.
Inger is a licensed clinical psychologist and associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University, and she's also a certified yoga instructor. Inger has 15 years of experience helping clients with mood and anxiety disorders, stress management, and interpersonal relationships. She is the author of the upcoming book, Unbreakable: Trauma, Love, and the Emotional Lives of Black Women, which sounds so interesting. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, Time Magazine, The Hill, and the Chicago Tribune. She gave a TED Talk called Lessons from Yoga on Living a Life with Intention. And she was a featured speaker at the inaugural United States of Women Galvanize Summit. Wow. I mean, wow. You keep busy.
I do. And I have to be intentional about my own self-care, as the two of you have already mentioned.
It's hard, right?
It is hard.
I love the name of your TED Talk, Inger, and I really want to hear all about that, because intention is my current favorite word. So we can riff about that. I also want to just say a quick thank you for participating in Take the Lead's Powertopia a couple of years ago in Chicago. So I know that you were a guest there, and it was really much appreciated.
It was my pleasure. Great time.
Fabulous. Wonderful. I'm also very pleased to have with us tonight Megan Nella Camina. I got it right that time. Yes. Best-selling author and co-founder of Lead Like a Woman and founder of Sacred Living Company. Megan is a former executive, business strategist, and leadership expert for some of the world's most innovative companies, huge companies, including GE, IBM, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. She's based in Australia, so we have an international, a global group this evening. I'm so excited about that. She has lots of degrees, but she's also a certified yoga instructor. It's interesting that both Inger and Megan are certified yoga instructors. So there must be something to that we'll find out about. And in addition to having her new book out, Megan also works with female entrepreneurs and business owners, and she's world renowned. She speaks all over the world about women's leadership and well-being, and runs women's leadership development programs. So this is really amazing. Her work has been featured on CNN, NBC, Fast Company, Elle, Marie Claire, Forbes, you name it. These are two incredible, famous women. So listen, everybody, you are going to want to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to warn you, everybody who's on the virtual happy hour tonight, and welcome to you all. We're so glad you're here. Be sure that you start tweeting your questions, or you can tweet them to @TakeLeadWomen, @TakeLeadWomen, no "the" in it, or you can put them into the chat box. And I'm encouraging you to go ahead and do that. We really want to hear from you, and I know that that both Inger and Megan are eager to answer your questions, but also because we've had so many people already sending questions in that Reshma and I already have pages of questions here. So if you want to get your question answered live tonight from these amazing women, get them to us right away as soon as you can. So, okay, where shall we begin? Oh, so we have a first question that we always ask. We always ask everybody. And we will ask you to try to answer it as best you can in 2 minutes or less. But it's really, how did you get to be you? I mean, it's a big question, but we find that people who tune into our virtual happy hours really want to know what makes you tick and why are you doing what you're doing. So, Ingrid, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. So as you mentioned, my name is Ingrid Burnett Ziegler, and I am from the South Side of Chicago, born and raised. And, you know, I think some of the part of my experience is growing up, I really observed how some people had access to certain opportunities and other people didn't. And that was something that I was really critically aware of from being a small child to high school to going on to college. And so when I started my professional career, getting my PhD in clinical psychology, I was really interested in closing those disparities, closing the disparities of all the factors, kind of environment, relationship, access to jobs, access to healthcare that make some people healthy and other people less healthy. And so that's really been a core piece of my work, starting again in my doctoral program all the way now into my career, is looking at people that don't have access to the best resources and finding the ways to close that gap. And closing that gap being in terms of providing education about mental health. What does it mean to be depressed or anxious? Providing information about access to available resources, either be it resources of coping strategies that you can do on your own or resources that may be available in your community. And also reducing some of the stigma around what it means to not feel well all the time, and normalize that these are experiences that not only do many women have, but many people have. And it's okay to acknowledge that and seek out help and support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Megan, how did you get to be you?
Trial and error, I would say. As you said, I run my own businesses now and have done for the last 8 years. Before that, I spent 18 years in, corporate America, big global corporations, and 18 years, that's a long time. And from my, sort of mid-20s, really defining periods. And I was traveling the world. I was running marketing. My last job was head of strategy at IBM for a $5 billion business. And when I look at why I do what I do and what the defining sort of pieces were, there's three real things, I think. One is that in that period of time, I learned very clearly what success looked like in let's just say it, patriarchal, male-dominated, masculine-led structures. Took me a long time to realize that, that's what it was, and how you succeed in that model. The second thing was, how hard it can be to be well, how hard it can be to do work that you're passionate about in that type of environment and flourish, particularly as a woman. And I learned that very seriously myself. I had a complete work-related burnout when I was in my mid-30s. And it was like a mental burnout as well as a physical burnout. And then the third thing was just how passionate I became to be about women in business, women in leadership, women's roles in society. Because when I was head of strategy, I was also head of gender diversity. So those things came together and eventually led me to leaving, that role and leaving my corporate work and creating my own companies purely focused on, what I do now around women. So yeah, but trial and error.
Trial and error. That's really good advice there.
I love that.
Yeah, we just took that one away. That would be very helpful for everybody. I noticed that Felicia has already jumped into the chat and said that she uses daily exercise for self-care to eliminate stress, but she does neglect sleeping, although she knows better. So that's not a question, but I just thought I would share that with you.
I mean, like, honestly, I think my phone is one of the reasons I don't sleep enough, because it's like right next to me. So I did try this thing where I put my phone in the kitchen way across my apartment. And it actually works, but I'm like, we're like addicts about these things. I just sit there in bed and I was like, I need my phone. All right. So Inger, we saw your New York Times piece on the strong Black woman, which I understand led to your book deal on your upcoming book. And in it, you write that as Black women, we are proud of our tenaciousness and never let the world see us crack. But we are suffering silently with the mental and physical health consequences of carrying the burden of family, work, and community responsibilities, compounded by personal experiences of trauma and loss, all in an environment of pervasive racial and gender discrimination. Can you share how the mythology of strength is part of the problem and how to counteract that myth?
Sure. So thank you for asking that. You know, the strong Black woman is this cultural prototype of the expectations of what it means to be a strong and successful Black woman. And a part of that is the expectation that we suppress emotions, that we're not vulnerable, that we can handle everything, including caregiving, providing for the family, providing for the partner. And we're able to do that with very little resources. And with little support. And a lot of Black women, and I think women in general, strongly identify with that prototype and really take it on. It's something that is passed down as how you are supposed to be. And it's something that women are often very proud of. Like, I am strong. This is something to be very proud of. However, when you have emotional experiences that are inconsistent with that, you know, a conflict arises. So you're trying to meet this prototype of being a strong Black woman, but actually you are having a hard time. Actually, you do feel depressed and anxious. Actually, you do need some help from time to time. And so it's really to highlight that experience of needing something more, of feeling down or stressed or overwhelmed is also a very normative experience among Black women and all women. And even though some women are dealing with that silently, it is a common thread. And it's important for us to kind of unveil this prototype that's been laid down and let people know that, you know, we all have moments, not of weakness, but of humanity when we're experiencing a hard time. And that's normal, and it's normal to ask for help and to need help.
And I think it's also changing the way we were all raised. I mean, if you think about it, especially, you know, coming from an Indian family, we were taught, like, you know, something's difficult, you kind of smile through it. Like, don't show people that it upsets you. It's part of being strong. And I think we have to redefine what strength really is. Maybe it is admitting when you need help.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Admitting when you need help, being able to use your resources, being able to, you know, identify that these are the coping tools that I have. These are the coping strategies that are available to me, be it family, be it things that are available in your community, be it professional help, either through your primary care physician or a mental health specialist. And taking care of yourself is being strong. It's a new way of seeing strength.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So Megan, to sort of just jump right onto that and expand on it even a little bit more, the Office of Women's Health here in the U.S. says that more than 1 in 5 women here have experienced mental health conditions in the past year, such as depression or anxiety. And worldwide, the World Health Organization has said that women have higher rates of depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders than men, affecting about 1 in 3 people globally. And that's obviously it is a serious public health problem. So, you know, I mean, I think I have a couple of questions within this question, which is like, there must be a continuum of mental health issues. And, so how do we help people distinguish from what is kind of the normal stuff that goes on in everybody's life, and when someone really needs a more expertise in their assistance? And what are some of your specific suggestions for helping women cope with the stress and anxiety so that it doesn't boil over? So Megan, what are your thoughts on those questions?
So I think I'll answer the first part and the last part, and I might let Inga take the middle part, which is around the clinical piece, because I'm not qualified to address that. And we have someone who is genius at that. So if that's okay, let me take the two ends, and then we can come to Inga for the clinical piece. Look, this is a rising epidemic, and whether I like to look at it on a like a scale. And as I said, Inga, if you can take the that clinical piece. But what I work with and see so much with women is the overwhelm, is the burnout, is the stress that we don't talk about. And I love where we started this conversation, because I think this myth of the strong woman, a lot of the work that I do is around, whether it's in leadership and corporates, whether it's with individual women, is around understanding and unpacking the masculine and learning how to come into the feminine, and learning what those, and it's non-gendered, right? But learning, for women, what that looks like. And I see so many women, and this was certainly my experience, who get on that very slippery slope to mental health challenges, to burnout, whatever we want to call it, because they are very in their masculine, driven in their masculine, because that's how we've been taught to succeed. It's how we've been raised, soldier on with your game face on, and that this is what you need to do and behave like to be successful, particularly at work. And how do we start to unpack that? How do we start to unhook from that and learn to get this balance between our different energies, our different perspectives, our different traits, and stepping into Brené Brown's work, vulnerability, courage, shame. How do we really bring those things to life for us so that we can live true, authentic, intentional lives? And yeah, so I think that's really important. In terms of tools and practices, I love that you talked about sleep. Sleep is my number one non-negotiable thing in my, other than drinking water, in my health. Because I was an insomniac for such a long time, and working in big global organizations, especially when I was here in Australia, you're on a call at 6, you're on a call at 6 a.m., you're on a call at 11 p.m. You might get to bed by 2 a.m. if you're lucky, and then you just keep going. I did that for 15 years, right? I was a rampant insomniac. Mm-hmm. So for the last 10 years, I've trained myself to sleep, and we can talk more about that if that's of interest. Yeah. And nighttime routines, getting rid of the phone, all those things. But sleep for our mental health, I believe, is absolutely the number one tool. I'll be really interested to see what Inga says. And then I think things like exercise, movement, whether that's yoga, walking, running, whatever it is that feels good to you that you can do, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, and we can break some of these things down. But I think there are a set of core tools that really support us in taking really good care of ourselves. And sleep, number 2 behind water.
I need to put that on my, on my walls. I need to put Post-its all over about sleep.
Yes.
Sleep.
Yes. Yes.
The problem as you grow older is it's harder and harder to sleep through the night. And I mean, that's a real deal. Yeah. That's a real issue. So yeah. A whole other thing. So Inger, did you want to fill in that middle piece about the continuum?
Sure. So just to build off of what's already been said, you named burnout, you named feeling overwhelmed. Other signs of depression, for example, might include feeling sad, being more irritable, having difficulty getting up and going every day, having a decrease in motivation, not being able to pay attention in the way that you typically would. And as we have all discussed a couple of times today already, changes in sleep So noticing that maybe it's more difficult to fall asleep at night, your sleep is more disrupted, having more difficulty getting up in the morning. And on that sleep continuum, it can go from getting too little sleep or finding yourself sleeping excessively. And that can be a sign of particularly depression and anxiety. And I think this continuum question is an important one that comes up often because I often hear people say, well, doesn't everybody feel this way? And yes, that's true to an extent, right? We all feel down from time to time. We all might have, a short fuse when, we're under a lot of pressure and having difficulty with stressors in our lives. But when these things start to build up, and they start to build up from days to weeks at a time, and they build up in a way that you are not performing in what would be typical for you. So maybe you're calling off work. It's not just one mental health day, but you're finding it increasingly more difficult to get up and go to work every day, where you're calling off once a week, every other week. Maybe you're slacking off on your chores or the way you would typically take care of yourself. Maybe you're more short fused with your children or your partner. Those, what we would call changes in functioning, are the real signs that we're moving from kind of a normative depression and anxiety to something that's on the upper end of the continuum that would require more professional help.
Okay. So we just got a question actually for both of you. This is specifically training yourself to sleep. Can you guys share more resources, tips and tricks that you had kind of brought up?
Sure, I can start with that one. There's some handful of behavioral strategies that are easy to implement. One is trying to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. And I know that we're an international panel here and people that are traveling often and have multiple demands. And so I already see the reactions on the screen of how is that even possible?
No, I'm excited because I'm going to tell people a doctor told me to go to sleep. I gotta go.
So that's one place to start, trying to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. We've also already alluded to the role of electronics, and I heard you mention that you try and put it in another room, and that's a strategy that I use myself.
Okay.
And so limiting the screen time at least an hour before you're preparing to go to sleep is another behavioral strategy. And because we're so tied to our phones, it might mean putting it in another room so that we don't have that impulse if we do find ourselves waking up in the middle of the night to check the phone in the process, because that screen time can really disrupt the quality of your sleep. Other things like having a cool room, increasing darkness, limiting your food intake before you go to bed are other behavioral things that you can put into place. And the last thing I'll mention is if you find yourself being someone that's very restless, you're waking up a lot during the night, which is common for people that are type A's or very anxious. One strategy is to get up out of bed, do something calming, like maybe a breathing exercise, maybe some very light reading under low light. Try that for 10 to 15 minutes and then return to the bed. And that's been found to be more helpful than finding yourself tossing and turning in the bed for hours at a time over the night, which can be more frustrating and just lead to more anxiety and irritability about actually falling asleep. Then you can become anxious that I'm not falling asleep, and that can actually keep you up even longer. So
Yeah.
those are things
I'm going to tell my husband that it's okay to get up and do some things.
Yes.
Because I'm anxious that I may not fall back to sleep. Yeah. Anyway, that's my problem. It's like, I try to get up and I've got this, where are you? Where are you? Voice that's coming. So now I have the prescription and I can justify it. Yes. Right.
Megan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, look, I think, so I agree with all of that. And that's, from my research that I do around this, or everything that Inga said. In addition, I think the first thing about sleep is we have to make it intentional, and it has to be a priority, because we can have all of the tools and the techniques and the strategies in the world. We can know all of the research. But if we don't value our sleep, if we don't think that it's important, if we don't see the difference in how we feel when we've consistently got whatever the number is for us, the research is currently saying 7.5 to 9.5 hours. Like, I know for me, if I get my 8 hours, I'm thriving. If I get 7, I'm okay. If I get less than 7, I can do that for a couple of nights. But after that, I'm going to start to really feel it. And I'm going to notice how that shows up in my day. So I think we need to get intentional. We need to know that it matters. And then practically, things like a bedtime routine. You know, what is the time non-negotiably that you will turn off your devices, that you will stop looking at social media, that you will turn off your email, is a really good one. And giving yourself a ceiling. So, you know, Reshma, I'm looking at you, like giving yourself.
I see it. I'm looking.
What is, because you're on my screen, what is the ceiling? What is the time that I'm going to say that's it? And then what happens? Do you do some meditation? Do you do some restorative yoga? Do you make yourself a cup of beautiful herbal tea? Do you have a bath or a shower to, you know, cleanse your energy for the day? What are the things? And then what is your cap on your bedtime? So even when I'm traveling, I still have my, you know, I like to be, you know, asleep absolutely no later than 10:30. But if I'm doing my morning meditation at 5:30, then it's 9:30. And even when I'm traveling, you know, if I can, I'm doing the same thing. So, you know, like, I think those things very practically make an incredible difference. But it has to start with intention. You know, it has to start with, this is important. I'm going to make this a non-negotiable, and then I can put the practices and strategies in place.
Great.
We are actually at beyond now, midpoint of the show. So this is the time that I have the opportunity to just remind people that we're very delighted that you have joined us for Take the Lead's virtual happy hour, featuring Megan Della Camina, best-selling author and co-founder of Lead Like a Woman, and Inger Burnett Ziegler, a licensed clinical psychologist and associate professor in the Department of Psychology and Behavioral Sciences at Northwestern University. And that tonight we have some great free resources for you. And I want you to be sure that you stay till the end, and you're going to get access to Megan's 10-part video series that will really be of great value to you. And in addition to that, we have a Be Your Best Self, How to Be Your Best Self compilation of resources for you from Take the Lead. So be sure that you stay with us till the end, and we will make sure that you have the links to those. They will be in the chat box. And then also we will be sending them to you after this program is over. You can hop on over to taketheleadwomen.com today and every day for other free resources and access to women's leadership programs that will help you break through barriers to get the career of your own highest intentions. I love that we all love the word intention here tonight. And we also can provide training, coaching, and other services to help your organization reach its diversity and inclusion goals. So please be in touch with us. You can always email takethelead@taketheleadwomen.com, and someone will reply to you just right away. I do want to mention that we have one of our most immersive programs that's open to anyone in different sectors, depending upon the sector that we're doing at any given time. Is called 50 Women Can Change the World, because we believe in the power of the cohort. And so we have cohorts of 50 outstanding women in a variety of sectors. We've done nonprofit, healthcare, media and entertainment, journalism, and we're about to do another 50 Women Can Change the World in healthcare in Arizona. So if you're interested, if you're a healthcare professional of any kind, please check into that on our website. We're also taking applications for 50 Women Can Change the World in finance. That date is yet to be set, but get your name in there quickly, because you can go to our website and taketheleadwomen.com, and then you can go to the 50 Women program under our leadership tools page, and you can nominate somebody who you think is a good candidate for that program, or you can nominate yourself. So we'd love to hear from you. What else do I need to tell you? Okay, yes, companies committed to gender equality can sponsor these programs in their companies. So you can just email me at takethelead@taketheleadwomen.com, or I'm telling you, I hate to admit this after all this conversation about social media, but I am a bit of a social media addict, and I'm on the social media all the time. So you can always tweet me at Gloria Felder.
You're not going to be on it all the time. We're gonna have these new rules that we're going to have to.
We're gonna be accountability partners, Reshma. We'll have to.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That's right. Well,
I'm just going to see Megan saying to me, Reshma, I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's get back to our guests. And Reshma, I know you've got a bunch of questions from
Yes,
folks.
I have a really good one that I want to address. First of all, I want to say to Brenda, who just said, I'm on a flight that's about to take off, and I'm very sad that I will eventually be disconnected. This has been great. Brenda, go to sleep. That's all you have to do.
And we will send you the link. We'll send you the link so you can watch the whole show.
Exactly. So, Inger, I want to bring this part up. So the World Health Organization states that depression, anxiety, somatic symptoms, and high rates of comorbidity are significantly related to gender-based roles, stressors, and negative life experiences and events. These risk factors affecting women more acutely are gender-based violence, socioeconomic disadvantage, income inequality, and the care of others. How can we begin to address these inequities that affect our mental well-being and health? And what are your suggestions? Because, you know, I think we all have the best intentions, and we're like, we're going to do this, this, and this, but, you know, other people might not see it from our point of view and aren't living what women of color live through. So what do you think?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And that's a big question, right? It's a big question around how do we, you know, get rid of the social and economic disparities that contribute to our overall health.
Yeah.
And you already pointed out, you know, income being one, knowing that women are more likely to live in poverty, knowing that women are more likely to experience childhood abuse or intimate partner violence, knowing that women are, particularly women, oh, I heard a little feedback, particularly women of color, African-American women are more likely to be the sole caregivers in their families. And all of these factors directly impact the amount of burden of stress that they experience, and that can then in turn contribute to symptoms of depression and anxiety. And so in terms of what we can do kind of in the immediate future, particularly as people that are interacting with women or healthcare providers, is being able to recognize those that may be more vulnerable to these circumstances, and being able to identify them and acknowledge that this is the circumstance that they're under, and then connect them to resources. In the broader context, of course, you know, income equality is a high priority. Spreading out the burden of caregiving in families is also of high priority. And looking at the roles that women take in the workplace, which also can often be imbalanced in terms of the on-the-ground work, is also of high priority.
Big issues to try to fix. It is important to recognize that there are the larger systemic issues, and it's not just all on us. So we need to work on those bigger systemic issues as well. So Megan, there's a question here. My manager makes comments about clients and customers and calls one client unstable. I'm offended because I struggle with mental health issues, but I don't want to speak up. What should I do? That's from Aisha. And since you work with a lot of companies, maybe you can help her have things that she can say.
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. And and it's a hard one, right? When it's your manager and your manager is behaving in any way that is, that makes you uncomfortable or you feel is out of integrity or out of alignment, it's a problem. So, and I also believe that we should never use language like unstable. I mean, if we're not a clinician, if we're not an expert, we should never, ever talk about any spectrum of, of mental health or health for that matter. So I guess my advice to her is that, is there a way to broach a conversation? And maybe it's not a direct, you shouldn't be using that word and don't use the word unstable and here's why. Maybe there's a side way to sort of have that conversation. Maybe it's in a team setting or a group setting and it's not directly reflected. And I was going to say him, it may not be a he. I don't think you said that to the manager, so that she can find a way to express her discomfort and maybe bring awareness to the fact that, it may even be just an unconscious thing that person, that manager has said, but to bring some awareness to the conversation. I think we are getting to a point, particularly around mental health, but all types of health and well-being, where it is safer in a lot of cases to raise a conversation or to ask a question about the conversations that are taking place, the behaviors that we're seeing. You need to do it in a way that you feel safe and you're not going to feel like you're at risk in your role. But I would look for, like, where might the openings be, to have a conversation about anything that is making you feel uncomfortable in your workplace.
Yeah. We have another question. That was a great answer. Laura says, I'm a single mother of 2 children, under 5, working a full-time job. I don't have time to take care of myself. How can I quickly feel refreshed? Sometimes I feel like I might be losing my mind to stress. I think we can all identify with that, with or without children. Like, how do we really, what are some real practical things where we can take a moment for ourselves when it's not built for that? Like, our lives have not been built for that.
Yeah.
I can start with that one. I work with a lot of moms, working moms in my clinical practice, and this comes up a lot. And one thing that I appreciate that's come up in this conversation many times is mindfulness and being intentional. And I think for someone that has a lot of demands on them, you're working, you're taking care of kids, self-care can seem like one more thing that you have to do. It can seem like this big thing that you're trying to fit into your schedule that you just don't have time for. And so what I really encourage the women that I'm working with is, how can you drop in moments of stillness, just to check in with yourself, right? So rather than thinking about, an hour at the spa, which I think we would all really enjoy, how can you have 5 minutes outside to slow yourself down, to notice how you're breathing, to notice the things that you might be holding in your mind that are causing you stress, anxiety, or worry, and mindfully be aware of that and let go of what you can. So slowing down, taking brief pauses throughout the day. And the second thing that I often tell women that I'm working with, and I do get pushback on this a lot of the times, is, what is on your list? Because we all often have very lengthy mental lists of the things that we think absolutely have to happen, and the world is going to explode if they don't happen. But what is on your list that maybe you don't have to do, right? And you can use that time instead to actually enjoy your kids, rather than kind of be in the hustle and bustle. Or use that time where, maybe it's not the biggest deal if you don't wash the dishes, to be still, to read for 30 minutes, to watch, I'm going to say it, that TV show that, is just kind of mindless, that will give you some ease. So I encourage people to think about, what is it not urgent that I have to do right now that I could use that time to do something for myself?
One of the things I wish I had done more of when my children were small is, I wish that I had, instead of seeing it as feeling like it was, oh my gosh, I have to be able to do these things with my kids over here because I have my work over here and I have my other things over here, that I wish I would have just like more seamlessly brought them along into it. And I don't know if anybody else has done that, but and Megan, I'd be interested in your answer to that too. But I just have this sense that people who are able to include their children, and even if it's just discussing what's going on with their day or what it is that's keeping them a little bit extra busy at work or something like that, that's a great thing. You know, the kids understand it. They really do. And I wish I hadn't compartmentalized all those parts of my life as much as I did.
Yeah, one of my mentors here talks about leading an integrated life. And I think that's a part of it. You know, we have these different things that we're interested in. For me, you know, of course, I'm interested in mental health. I'm also interested in, you know, health equity, broadly speaking, also interested in yoga. And I find ways to try to integrate all of those different aspects into my life so that, you know, even when I'm doing something that's yoga related, it's still related to the work that I'm doing when I'm at Northwestern, and it's still a way that's taking care of myself. So,
yeah.
So Gloria, I'm going to do one more question if that's okay. This is more about support in the workplace. One of my coworkers seems to be fighting a lot of stress. She cries in the bathroom a lot and just looks so tired. Should I say something to her? Either of you want to address that?
Yeah. Yes. You should. And it can just be a question of, I've noticed this. How are you? Like, how are you? And see if there's, again, an opening for her to open up, to share, to feel that there is that support there. You know, I think one of the things that we need so much for our mental health, for all aspects of our lives and well-being, is support, is community. And in this era when we're more connected but more disconnected than we've ever been, we can feel so isolated. And any opportunity that we have to reach out and say, how are you doing? And really care about the answer, and just create that space for someone to feel seen and heard, even if they don't want to go into what's going on for them. Just that interaction, you know, might be supportive. And I mean, it could be small things of recommending a resource or sharing a book or, you know, whatever it is. But yes, absolutely, to walk past someone who you see is visibly upset and struggling, like, that's not an act of humanity, I don't feel. So, you know, we need to remember that we're human and we need connection and support outside of all the roles and all the structures and all the, you know, normative behavior that we see, in workplaces.
And I love what you said about we're more connected but more disconnected. I think because of our devices, empathy is getting lost in the mix, and the benefit of human interaction, face-to-face interaction, is something that I think we are in danger of losing overall, especially for this younger generation.
Without question. And look, one of the reasons I wrote Simple, Soulful, Sacred is because I want us to come back, particularly as women, but for anyone who needs it, to this, like, these simple values and practices, and to a more soulfully connected way of being in the world. Even, I don't care if we're in the biggest company in the world or in the biggest leadership position, or we're at home with the kids. How do we claim ourselves as sacred, especially as sacred women, and make the things that make our lives better important to us, and claim that as part of our lives? And connection is just such a huge and fundamental part of that.
Yeah. And Gloria, if you don't mind, I want to follow up just from this question on something that we had wanted to bring up. We can't talk about access to mental health resources without talking about access to healthcare, particularly in workplaces. And Ingrid, I have a question for you. As you see patients in different settings, including your hospital office, how do you advise women in particular to address mental health concerns with their employers? And have you seen that they don't want to share? What's the best way to navigate it? Because it is tough at work.
Sure. So yes, I think many people do not want to share. And that is one of the key areas that stigma continues to show up. There are a lot of people that are concerned, if I do get mental health care, Is my employer going to have access to this information, and what is that going to do for the stability of my employment? And so in terms of advising people what to do, I really think that I look at it from a case-by-case basis. You know, some people are able to get their mental health care privately, without having to disclose that to their employer. And I do think it's important to acknowledge that women face different levels of risk. There are some women that do have the privilege of being able to tell their employer, hey, I'm going to therapy, I'll be right back. And there are other people that do not have that luxury, that they may face a greater level of risk. And I think it's important to keep that in mind in terms of, you know, what we advise women. But in some cases, it may be important to disclose, just to keep that open relationship with an employer. And in many cases, I've seen employers be flexible and supportive and respond in kind and say, you know, I have a therapist that I see as well. That's great, you know, and negotiate the best time in terms of getting that care. And other people have been less fortunate. And so it's really a matter of linking them with a provider that they're able to see outside of their typical work hours.
Yeah. I know I've experienced, you know, in my office, our senior management team have all experienced this growing up in our careers. And we try to create an environment where people are comfortable telling us. So it is a privilege too, like you said, but our editor-in-chief, who's one of my good friends here, she will announce every day at Wednesday at 5. She's like, bye guys, I'm leaving for my therapist, because she wants people on her team to feel comfortable to tell her, like, okay, you need to go. But, you know, there's this whole background where people have been so scared to talk about their health issues, to the point that, you know, I'm a manager who is very open to all of this. I understand health issues and making time to leave work, go to the therapist, go to your doctors. But, you know, I still have a lot of people who are scared. Like, they come up to me, they're like, I'm going to need surgery on this. And I was like, that's cool. I mean, it's not cool that you need surgery, but trying to change the environment and the conversation around this so it's more open.
Right, absolutely. And I agree with everything you've shared. And I think with that, although the culture is changing, to be more open, to be more flexible, to reduce the stigma, it is still a delicate balance, and kind of this, we're kind of in a place where we have to read where the employer is, and be able to assess, is this something that is held as a value in my workplace environment? And if not, how do I protect myself, but also take care of myself?
And how do you deal with employers who, you know, say one thing, but don't practice that? Like, that's another challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Absolutely. You know, I unfortunately have also heard stories from people that I've worked with where, you know, if they disclose struggles that they're having, then it may unfortunately lead to an employer questioning their ability to carry out their role, rather than the employer seeing this as a step that they're taking in order to be able to do their role more effectively. And so, you know, it's a tough spot that an employee has to be in, to not only have to take care of themselves, navigate the workplace, but also potentially navigate the biases that, you know, their supervisor or manager has. Yeah, it's a difficult space.
Well, it is, but I think, as you say, it is changing, and I would like to believe, although I know you can't make a blanket statement about this either, and I'd love to get Megan's comment about this, given the topic of your book, Megan, and how you look at the importance of the female characteristics and character in the workplace. But I would like to believe that one of the benefits of having gender parity and greater diversity in general in leadership will be one of the things that will help us to change the culture to one that is more open and accepting of people with all of our issues, and that we're all doing our best to do our best. And you know, I had to learn that over the years, that really people are all trying to do their best, and, you know, to find a way to appreciate that. Before we start wrapping up, though, I want to make sure that people know how they can find you. So,
yeah, because we have a lot of questions left.
Megan, I want you, yeah, we have a lot of questions left, and we may have time for some more, but I just want to be sure that we don't miss the opportunity to, so Megan, tell people about your book and tell people how they can reach you and find you.
Thank you, Gloria. So this is my book, Simple, Soulful, Sacred. A Woman's Guide to Clarity, Comfort, and Coming Home to Herself. So it's everything that we're talking about. It's an invitation to a more intentional life, essentially, in a very short way. And it's short chapter, so you can dip in and dip out in 2 minutes, which I think is really important. People can find me at megandellacamina.com. And that's where I live. And I also spend a lot of time on Instagram. So if anyone's on Instagram, come find me. I love the creativity and connection of that. So I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes over on Instagram as well.
Thank you, Megan. And so, Inger, how can people find you?
Sure. People can find me at becomingonewellness.com, and that is the primary hub of my consulting work around mind and body wellness and how mindfulness and yoga can be used to improve mental and physical health. I also spend a lot of time on Twitter at IBZPsychPhD. And additionally, I would love people to look forward to my upcoming book, Unbreakable, The Emotional Lives of Black Women, with the expected release date of 2020.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to let, yeah, okay, good. I just, pardon me, the phone, sometimes I think ringing, and, you know, we'll cut that out when we do this into a podcast. So the last question we like to ask everybody is, what is your one big takeaway that you want to leave our audience with? What is the one big takeaway you want to leave? So Inger, we'll go with you first on this and then wrap up with Megan.
Sure. So staying with the theme of being intentional and mindfulness, I'll say just paying attention, right? Paying attention to how you feel, paying attention to changes in your mood, your relationships, your productivity from day to day, being aware of the factors that influence that, and using that awareness to take steps to take care of yourself and use the resources that are already available to you or seeking out additional resources if needed.
Megan, what's your big takeaway you want people to remember from this hour?
Yeah, I really want people, and particularly women, right? We're talking about women, to get intentional about their lives and to take back control and ownership and agency of who they are, what they're trying to create for themselves, and how they feel in their lives. And to look at the small daily practices that they can take to really create a more meaningful life and a more intentional life so that they can thrive.
Beautiful. Okay, so what's your go-to song or quote, Megan, that keeps you rested?
Oh, go-to song. At the moment, I'm completely obsessed with Coldplay's Something Like This. Obsessed. Completely obsessed.
Okay, all right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
Inger, what's your go-to song or quote that keeps you revved up?
Oh my gosh. The first thing that popped in my mind is a quote that alludes to yoga for me. Blessed are the flexible, so they shall not be bent out of shape.
I'm going to take that to my Pilates teacher on Saturday. That is fantastic. Well, I want to make sure that everybody has downloaded their bonuses, and I want to make sure, have those been put into the chat box yet? Can we make sure that they are put into the chat box? All right, there they come.
It is.
So there you go. To everybody, the two things that we have for you to take away from this virtual happy hour tonight that we hope will be of great use to you are the 10-part video series from Megan's new book, Simple, Soulful, Sacred. What a beautiful, that's a poem into it.
Great title.
Over and over again. And the Take the Leads best self-resource guide that we've put together for you. So be sure and download those. Reshma, as always, it is a pleasure.
It was so great tonight, guys. What a great conversation. And everyone, please tweet Gloria, clearly, but just not for a few hours.
Yeah,
We're going to be turning off our phones tonight pretty early.
and at Take Lead Women on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook and LinkedIn, Take the Lead is Take the Lead Women. So, you know, it's all kind of, you have to remember those things. Thank you so much to our amazing guests, Inger Burnett Ziegler and Megan Della Amina. You are now an integral part of Take the Lead. So that's just, you know, that's how we roll here. So you are part of our network of people who are moving to achieve gender parity for women in leadership by 2025. So everybody go to taketheleadwomen.com to learn more about how we can help you, and share this with all of your colleagues, your friends and colleagues on social media. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've done it. I think we've got a wrap here. So all we have to do is do our outro, and we're going to say farewell, but only until next month. Be sure that you're chiming in the second Wednesday of the month at 6:30 Eastern Time for a new virtual happy hour. Thanks for joining Take the Lead Presents Virtual Happy Hour. Be sure to tune in again next month. Remember, it's the second Wednesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 1 hour, once a month, to boost your career. Until then, power to you.